You are listening to 600 Saga. Today's feature is The Girl Who Founded Colony 050 by Nick Fink. Earlson sat in his tree perch, one eye on the scope and balancing the stock of a recursive bolt rifle over his knee. Rain clouds no longer lingered above the clearing, and warm amber sunlight heralded the gradual return of grazing forest fauna. "What's wrong, Father?" Earlson did not reply. He continued to chew the nylon pull string of his camouflaged slicker. For a long time, the barrel of his rifle remained still. But now, it tilted ever so slightly as his gloved finger slid around the trigger and gave it a half squeeze. "It's a Shiwu," he said. "I have a clear shot and I'm gonna take it." "It isn't hostile, Father. Our emissary said the natives have expressly forbid us from disrupting the herd." "Never mind that. A beast that size has more than enough meat to give us all a good feast, not to mention the value of its ivory." Earlson pulled tighter on the trigger. With graceful caution, the girl gently touched her mitten to the man's shoulder. "It hasn't even grown its third tail yet, which means it's only a juvenile. The others will return soon, and we can have a proper feast. This sun has been kind to us, and the greenhouse is overflowing with plenty." "Be silent, Celestia." The gun fired 3 shots in the span of a single breath. On the far side of the narrow creek bed, the creature slumped to fall on the muddy bank. Gangling ground dwellers fled to their burrows, just quickly enough to avoid the panicked grass-eaters. The mature amphibious birds leapt from the water to the sky, while their startled young were left to burrow in the muck. In that instant, even the buzzing insects became still. Earlson descended the ladder and booted up the engine of the transport rover. Celestia stood, resting on the rail of the perch. Her eyes were fixed on the red-stained pool that still showed no indication of washing away downstream. While her father butchered the animal, she turned away to stare at the untamed canopy of the forest. On the opposite side of the clearing, she saw eyes staring back in her direction at the level of the treetops. 3 pairs that she could count. They must have been adult Shiwu, and their bodies were almost indistinguishable from their environment. All 3 were immensely tall and witnessed the scene below in unflinching silence. That evening, decorative lanterns burned brightly outside the barricade of Colony 049. It had been a harsh first year, but this celebration marked the beginning of uncharted prosperity. For the first time, they were thriving instead of dangling on the edge of uncertainty, and the colonists were really enjoying the taste of this new meat. The outside char of the flesh took on a deep purple hue that faded to soft lilac in the warm, rare center. Barely anyone touched the grilled vegetables that now served as mere garnish to the delicious centerpiece. Only Celestia had refused to eat. At an appropriate interval in the meal, the melody box halted its tune, and Magister Levin took up the speaking scepter. "Although we came to this soil as strangers, I am proud to know you all as friends. It is by the will of the one Creator that we shall flourish and claim this land as our rightful home." Levin paused to clear his throat. "I would like to express my gratitude to Brother Earlson and recognize his contribution regarding the initiative taken here today. I also lift my chalice in the name of Emissary Hagen, who is still not returned from his errand. Finally, I would like to—" Those words were the last words the Magister ever spoke. Every syllable that followed could only be described as garbled and high-pitched gibberish. The colonists were now in a frenzy, because an unseen force had also warped their tongues, turning every thought they uttered into unintelligible squeaks. Celestia alone was unharmed, although she said nothing during the terrifying riot. Just then, the vaulted dome above the commissary was torn open by claws larger than a man. The people looked up to see the long, scaled necks of 3 Shiwu, a trio of monstrous faces against the backdrop of a starless sky. Should we be so hasty? The others will return soon and we can have a proper feast. One creature chided the others. Never mind that, answered another. The stars have been kind to us again, and this house is overflowing with plenty. This was The Girl Who Founded Colony 050 by Nick Fink. Nick lives at the Jersey Shore and works as an IT systems administrator. He spends his few free minutes writing short science fiction and fantasy stories. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Second Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Second Saga.